But that is really a pleasure to have Professor Beckett in here because the University of Leeds is a very good university. And when I study in the UK, we already know that. And the sociology department in Leeds also, as far as I know, have over like 50 staff, academic staff. It's quite...
Correct, yes.
Yeah, I do some study. Yeah, it's so big. It's so big. Yeah. And so I do think that is really a privilege to join that department and also join the University of Leeds. And today we really hope the professor, you can give our students like some of your observation about how a foreign student's advantage and the disadvantage in terms of study in the UK, for them, and also like what kind of preparation or attitude that you think our students need to like prepare for themselves in terms of study in the UK. Yeah, for example, like sometimes I do feel our student in Taiwan is much more passive. They are not active enough. They don't have enough courage to ask a question or to be against the professor.
To disagree with their professors. Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But I do think sometimes you need to try to make your own argument to your professor.
Absolutely. Well, we can talk about that, I think. I'm going to begin by introducing the country and where we're based in the university, in the city, but then I think we can talk about all those things that you're mentioning there. And I have a feeling that there is a lot of inner courage and bravery in the students from Taiwan. So I'm going to try to release that and give people confidence to come and study in the UK.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, very kind.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be joining you all this long distance. I wish I was actually in Taiwan with you because I love Taiwan so much, and I was very honored to be invited by Professor Chang a few years ago. I'm trying to remember how many years. Is it 4 years, Professor Chang, that I think it's 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
3 or 4 years since I first came and I visited your university, and I met some of the wonderful students there, and we talked about social movements and the politics of disability rights, and it was a wonderful occasion. And so it's my privilege to come to talk to you again today, sadly at long distance, but nevertheless it's wonderful to be with you. So before I start, I thought I'd do something a little bit fun. So I'd like to begin with a bit of a quiz, okay? So this is not something, I want you all to get a pen and paper, please, and to write down some answers, but you can mark your own. This is not an exam, so you can mark your own quiz, and you don't need to tell me how many of the answers you get right, okay? So here we go. Let's begin. This is about the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is made up from 4 countries. From 4 countries. Did you know this? That are come together as the United Kingdom. Do you know? Can you list the 4 countries without Googling? No checking on your phone. This is the rule. Can you name the 4 countries that make up the United Kingdom? Professor Chang, put your phone away. I can see you. Okay. And the next question, can you name the capital cities of each of the countries that make up the United Kingdom? I'm going to guess that everybody thinks we just have one capital city. Ah, we have 4. What are the 4? Thank you, Professor Lynn. Can you name the capital cities? Match them up. Okay, the next question is, what kind of weather do you think we have in the United Kingdom? Are we a hot, dry country? Yes or no? How would you describe the weather in Britain as you imagine it to be? The next question, how many active volcanoes do we have in the United Kingdom? How many active volcanoes do we have in the United Kingdom? The next question. What is our favourite food? Can you guess? What is the nation's favourite food? And I'm a sociologist, so I find trivia, lots of little bits of information about people, to be very interesting. And every year, the nation does several surveys, fun surveys, where it asks people, what's your favourite food? And Britain always chooses the same thing. What do you think it might be? What's our favourite food? You'd have to wait, Professor Chang, until the answers. And finally, what's our favourite drink? What do we like to drink? What do we drink more of than any other drink in the UK? Our favourite drink. Okay. Right. Get ready. You may have 1 point for each correct answer. The 4 countries in the United Kingdom. England. And that's where I am at this moment. I'm in England. Okay. Scotland. Northern Ireland, which is not in the same mainland as England and Scotland, but is actually part of an island to the west of England, in fact. And the 4th country is Wales. And did you know that Wales has a different language, Welsh? So we don't just speak English, we also speak Welsh in the United Kingdom as well. Not everybody speaks Welsh, but there are 2 languages. The capital city of England is London, and London is also the capital of the United Kingdom, but it's the capital of England as well. Scotland's capital is Edinburgh. Northern Ireland's capital is Belfast. And the capital of Wales is Cardiff. So I wonder how many you got right. Ah, you see. So we are united because we are 4 kingdoms in one. The United Kingdom of Great Britain, which is the main island, and Northern Ireland, which is part of the island to the west of us. I wonder how many people knew that. I think a lot of people don't think, and they think maybe England is the same thing as the United Kingdom, but it's not. We're 4 different peoples united. Okay, how many, was it weather next? I think I said weather next. What kind of weather do we have? Well, we have cooler weather than in Taiwan. So we are what's called by the geographers temperate. We're in the temperate zone. So we have cool, not very cold, but cool and rather wet winters. So you would need, if you came to England, a good waterproof coat and an umbrella, and you would need something warm to wear, a nice thick coat. Okay, but you wouldn't need very often to have your snow boots or anything like that. We very occasionally have snow and it lasts a couple of days. It's very unusual for us to have very heavy snow. Okay, and in the summer we have much cooler summers than you, because I have been to visit you in October and found it to be very, very hot in Taiwan. And I suspect that October is not the hottest time of the year in Taiwan, but it is much cooler in the summer and rarely gets above about 24, 25 degrees Celsius here in the UK. And we do get quite a bit of rain in the summer as well. So we are generally quite a rainy country. We do have sunshine and we do have lovely weather days, but we also have quite a bit of rain. So you would need to pack an umbrella if you came to study with us. Now, my very horrible trick question about volcanoes. How many do we have? None. Okay, so this was a trick question. We have no volcanoes that are active. We have some very, very ancient volcanoes that are now mountains, but we don't have any active volcanoes. So no volcanic action in the UK. Our favourite food, I wonder. Professor Chang, what did you guess?
Curry.
Oh! Very well done. Okay. Did you just know that or did you guess from...
I just know that.
You just know it. Okay. So it's actually chicken tikka, which is a particular kind of curry. It's quite specific. It always comes up. So the nation's favourite food is curry. And as you probably will know, and the sociologists here will recognise, this is a symptom of our colonial heritage. So I'm afraid one of the things about Britain is that sort of 200-300 years ago, we built a very large empire by going around the world, taking over other people's countries, I'm afraid. This was not a good period of our history. And we are now obviously living in a post-colonial era where the influence of British culture around the world, not always for good, has been something that we've been thinking about and being critical and thinking about our own attitudes and behaviours and ways in which our modes of thought have been rather imposed on others. But what I will say is that it was not all bad, because we did learn about other people's cultures, and one of the things that we very much appreciate are foods from around the world. And our favourite is from India, and it's curry. Okay. And what do we drink a lot of? Have a guess?
Tea.
Tea. We drink a lot of tea, but we don't drink tea that's so much like the Taiwanese tea. Your tea is very beautiful and it's all very gorgeous. And I remember having rose tea and all sorts of green teas when I was with you. But we like very traditional black tea with milk. So I'm not sure whether that is what you would all like, but that's what we drink, and we drink it in large quantities. We always say we are fueled not by gasoline or petrol, we're fueled by tea in the UK. Okay, so that's how we, yes, black tea, absolutely. And yes, we do drink beer too. Absolutely. But we don't drink as much beer as we drink tea. Okay, quiz over. I'm now going to get into the more serious presentation, okay? So I'm going to begin. I wonder, Dr. Ma, whether you would just confirm that you can all see this slide now, and as I move it...
Yeah, now it's page, now it's page number 2.
Lovely, that's wonderful. Okay, right, so come back to me, mouse, please. Okay. So, why study abroad? Well, I want to talk to you today about why it might be exciting for you to travel. And, you know, one of the things that I think is that our knowledge as human beings grows through encounters with different people and different cultures. And I think that as we exchange ideas, learn about each other's perspectives, start to see the different problems that we face, but also perhaps very similar problems that we face as human beings, whether it's about global inequalities or whether it's about global warming and environmental difficulties, whether it's pandemics that we've all been living through. Whatever those issues are, it is wonderful for us if we can talk to each other, learn about different ways of thinking and being in the world. And I think that we grow as individuals through encounters with difference. So I want to encourage you to be brave and think, okay, what can I learn by bringing my culture and my understandings and the way that I've been brought up and socialized and bringing that into dialogue with the perspectives and experiences and views of people who've had different experiences growing up, who've been in different environments and cultures. And yes, sometimes cultures clash, but in my experience, most often when we're together and we form friendships, we learn so much from each other. And we can gain confidence and new skills by travel, whether it's traveling for the first time on our own independently, learning our ways around a new city, learning the different ways in which education operates and functions in different countries, engaging in learning about new foods, new cultures, new histories, whatever it may be that we're interested in. Nevertheless, is the world becomes open to us if we travel. And I think it helps us to build that inner confidence that we need so that when we return home again, even if we decide that we want to remain in our home countries for our work and our employment, nevertheless, we become people whose minds are open to the world. We become global citizens. And when I use that term, global citizen, I use it in that classic ancient Greek understanding of it, where I can sit here in my room, in my office, but I can still feel in many ways connected to the world as a global citizen. I can care about what is happening on the other side of the world. I can be concerned for my fellow humans around the world. So I think that travel allows us to do that. Also, we know from research and from the experiences of international students who've travelled around the world to various universities that international study can really increase students' employability. Why? Because it shows that you are the kind of person who can travel, who can be independent, who can learn from others, who can engage in broadening their minds and their perspectives. It means that you have acquired skills that one university is able to equip you with, and then you can go and you can learn some additional skills from another university and group of academics. Because although all of us as academics are knowledgeable, that's a requirement of our job to have knowledge, but we can't know everything. And we each have our own particular perspectives and each have our own expertise areas. So by going and moving, by mobility, you actually increase your chances of acquiring new skills, additional skills that you can add to your CV and you can talk about to future employers. And we know that future employers really value language skills, which obviously it's something that if you came to study in the UK, you would be able to polish and improve your English language skills. That's a great transferable skill, as it's called, within the labour market. But also you've shown that ability to be reliant upon yourself, to show that you are courageous, to show that you are a person who can get on with different types of people and form good working relations. So these, I think, are the reasons why it would be wonderful to do international study. But we can also talk about other reasons, and you can ask me some questions at the end. But what I'm going to do in the rest of the presentation now is really introduce you to the United Kingdom, also to the city of Leeds, and to the university. So where are we? So here is Leeds, and as you can see by this red dot that I hope you can see, this pin, we are in almost the middle of Great Britain. This is the main island, and up here is Scotland. Wales is this area here where my mouse is hovering. Northern Ireland is here, and England is this part, all of this part of the country. So we're in the north of England, and we are about 2 hours train from London, and there are direct trains. You don't need to change trains. You get on a train at King's Cross Station, which is probably familiar to some of you from reading Harry Potter. So you get on the train at the Harry Potter station, but not the same magical platform, I have to say. And you come up to Leeds, and it takes you 2 hours. If you wanted to travel into Europe and explore while you were here, there are very low cost flights to many destinations from the Leeds airport. We do have an airport in Leeds. You could fly, for example, to Amsterdam, and that would take you 1 hour and 20 minutes. Or you could fly to Paris, and that would take you 1.5 hours. Here is Paris in France, and there's so much history and culture that you might like to explore across Europe while you are here. So we're quite well located. This is a map of a region called Yorkshire, and Yorkshire is an area, if you like, a county or a municipality. I'm not sure how you would describe this in Taiwan, but it's a region of England, and we in Leeds are located right in the middle of Yorkshire. Okay, now I wanted you to have a sense of other famous places and what it's like, the region around the city. And as you can you see all these lovely green areas? Now these are actually large national parks. So these are wild countryside, unspoilt really by humans, and they are areas of outstanding natural beauty. And we are surrounded by these areas of beauty in the city of Leeds. So although we are a very modern, very industrial kind of city, we're surrounded by beautiful countryside. We're also not far from the city of Manchester, which is 1.5 hours away. And here there is a large international airport, which if you were flying to Leeds, you would almost certainly fly here, and then there is a train right from the airport to the city centre at Leeds. So it's very, very easy to get to us. Where else might you like to go? You might like to go to visit Liverpool, a city famous for the Beatles. I know this is before the time of everybody, I imagine, on this call, but I imagine that people know about the Beatles. But Liverpool is a very exciting, vibrant city. It's a port. It has a lot of cultural heritage and history and wonderful art galleries and museums. And also, if you wanted to go to visit the history of the Beatles and learn about that famous pop group, then you would be able to visit there. And that again takes just over 1.5 hours on the train. Where else might you like to go? You might like to go to the seaside. So we don't have tropical weather and tropical beaches in the UK, but we do have lovely seaside and a very particular kind of experience. If you go, the sea is cold, but people like to dip their toes into the sea, and they like to sit on the beach and have ice cream, and then they like to, at the end of the day, have another of the nation's favourite foods, fish and chips. I don't know if people have heard of fish and chips. So this is a piece of fish in like a tempura batter with chips. And this green thing here is called mushy peas. It's a delicacy. And believe me, you will find it delicious. It tastes better than it looks. This is what I'm going to say about it. But this is famous kind of street food in the United Kingdom. What else might you like to do? You might like to go and see the beautiful countryside in the Yorkshire Dales. Or you might like to go to see where Beatrix Potter, have you heard of Beatrix Potter? Perhaps you've heard of Peter Rabbit, for example. And there are lots of cartoons and films about Peter Rabbit. Well, perhaps you'd like to go to visit where Beatrix Potter lived and the house where she had these ideas about these beautiful stories that she wrote. That's in the Lake District. Or perhaps you'd like to go to see the Pennines and the Peak District, which is a beautiful area of natural wilderness. Or perhaps you would like to go on one of the still existing ancient, if you like, old railways where you can still travel on a steam train. And this is in the North York Moors, a lovely day out that you could have there. Okay, so this is Yorkshire. And here I've put some pictures on the left, which are other places that you would be able to visit to gain a sense of history. So we've got beautiful palaces and stately homes. We've got York Minster, which is about 20 minutes away from Leeds. York Minster is the largest Gothic cathedral in Northern Europe, and it has 128 of the most beautiful stained glass windows. Or perhaps you would like to go shopping here in York. And I put a picture on the bottom here of one of the medieval towns where you can go and do shopping and have afternoon tea and perhaps look at the history of when the Romans were in Yorkshire and when the Vikings were in Yorkshire and medieval Yorkshire. So there's lots of things that you might like to do over your weekends. Here we have a very traditional tea room where people are served afternoon tea, and this is rather a tradition that people like to go and have a tea at Betty's Tea Rooms. We drink a lot of tea. This is the famous Yorkshire Pudding, which is not a sweet pudding, but is instead a famous kind of batter or crisp, almost like a crispy pancake into which people put lots of vegetables and meats and gravy. This is another of the traditional foods of Yorkshire. So if you came, you definitely need to try this. Or maybe you'd like to go and watch a cricket match, because cricket is a really popular sport within Yorkshire and we're famous for our cricket. There are 2 UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Yorkshire as well, Fountains Abbey being one. These are very beautiful, special places for you to visit and learn about the history of the United Kingdom. Okay, so another quiz. Here we have 3 images. We have a picture of a very, very old steam engine, a locomotive, the first steam locomotive, the first steam railway carriage, engine, if you like. That's on the left. In the middle, we have a fizzy drink. And on the right, we have an X-ray. And I wonder what these things have in common. Well, perhaps it will surprise you to know that all 3 of these things were invented in Leeds. So Leeds is a very historical city where there have been lots of developments and inventions, and we continue to be a very inventive city. So we had the first locomotive was built, the first engine was built in Leeds. Joseph Priestley, who discovered carbonated water, how we make water fizzy, he worked in Leeds. And Mr. Schweppes, who you may know Schweppes brand lemonade and other kinds of fizzy drinks, well, he actually borrowed the idea of fizzy water that was invented in Leeds, and he started producing commercial fizzy pop and fizzy drinks. But it all began in Leeds. X-rays were invented in Leeds. So Leeds is a very old city, but the city of today was built on the wool trade. Coal mines that were near to the city fueled this industry, but in the 20th century, that industry started to decline. So we don't have coal now around the city, and we don't have heavy industry really in the city either any longer. Instead, what we have is a whole variety of about 80 different trades, and some of the main industries within Leeds are tailoring and engineering, publishing, media and communications. We have 30 national and international banks. In fact, we are the second city in the United Kingdom for having banking and major headquarters of banks, law firms, financial services, insurance, and so on. We're the fourth largest urban area in the UK, and we have, believe it or not, over 140 different ethnic groups living in Leeds. And in fact, 12% of people in Leeds were born outside of the country, outside of the UK. There are almost 800,000 people living in the city, but we also have a wider region that is looked after by the city, if you like, and there are 3 million people living in that wider city region. We're a very green city, and I don't mean that we're perfect in terms of ecology green-wise. Nevertheless, and we're still working on that as a city, we have 200 parks, woodlands and green spaces and gardens for the public, and we have a famous cricket ground, a rugby ground and football grounds. So that's the city. And here I've put some images for you of our shopping centres, our beautiful area around the canal, which is a place of restaurants and bars and nightlife. Here we have the centre of Leeds, which is a very elegant city built on the basis of industry in the past, but now a very elegant city with large art galleries, museums, town halls and places you might like to visit. We have a beautiful opera house. We have the Northern Ballet in Leeds. We have one of the largest Pride festivals for LGBT rights, and also a very exciting Afro-Caribbean annual festival, and which is very exciting. It's a carnival. And also, if you like pop bands and rock music, we have a really exciting festival every year that brings thousands of people together to watch their favourite bands. Okay, so the University of Leeds. Well, I was most grateful to be introduced at the start with reference to the university and for lovely things to have been said about us. We are indeed a very good university and a well-known and respected one. And we are a member of the prestigious Russell Group, which is a bit like the Ivy League of America, but in the UK. We're a global top 100 university in the QS World Rankings, and we have been awarded gold for our teaching in the large national exercise of all the UK universities. They are assessed to see how well we teach, and we've been awarded gold for our teaching, which is something we're very proud about. We want to make a difference in the world at the University of Leeds. We're a value-driven university. We harness expertise in research and education to help to shape a better future for humanity. and we work together, we collaborate across disciplines with the goal of tackling inequalities, trying to make a more fair and just society that benefits everybody. And we want to drive change. We want to be positive change makers in the world. So these are our values, and this is what we hope to achieve. And this is what we want our students, if they want to join us, we want you to embrace these values and join us in this mission. I'm not going to read through this slide, but I'm going to leave my slides with Dr. Ma so that he can share them with you afterwards. But on this slide, I've listed our faculties. We have 7 faculties: arts, humanities and culture, biological sciences, business, social sciences, which is where I'm based, engineering and physical sciences, environment, medicine and health. And within each faculty, there are lots of different schools, which I've listed there. Now, the reason I've listed those is that you may be able to spot there schools where you think you might like to study and be based. And each of those schools will have an array of different programs or courses, degrees at either undergraduate or postgraduate level that you might be interested in. So you can contact us if you'd like information about any of these places. Our students, we have more than 38,000 students, so it's a very big university, and that includes more than 12,000 international students, and they come from more than 130 different countries. Wow! And what I'm really proud about as well is that of our students, about 3,500 students every year volunteer to do work that is socially important within the local or the national community while they're here. And I'll just give you some examples. Our students work with refugees. They do work on conservation for people and planet, environmental projects. They work towards LGBT rights or the rights of disabled people or women. They work in our local hospital to provide bedside buddies, bedside friends for children who are in hospital so that they will be more happy and cheerful. They get visitors from our students who go and do fun activities with the children. There are so many different things. They work with older people in the community and form pen pal relations and have cups of tea with older people to make sure that older people don't feel lonely, but instead have the opportunity to talk to people. So if that's the kind of thing you would like to do, and many of our international students do get involved in these kinds of initiatives, and they find it an excellent way to meet people, to get to know the local community, and to really grow through encounters with people who are maybe different from them and have had different experiences in their lives. We embrace the values of equality, diversity and inclusion in our whole community, and we expect respect amongst our students and staff. We are a community that wants to be inclusive, vibrant and happy working together. We have excellent facilities in the university. Our lecture theatres are well equipped. We have beautiful libraries. I don't know whether you can see my pretend backdrop. I'm not actually in the Brotherton Library, but one of our libraries is a very beautiful space where you might like to work and study and think. We also have 2 other major libraries as well, with great spaces for people to work together, pods where students can form reading groups and work together, lovely spaces to do your research. We have lots of green spaces on campus, and here where my arrow is pointing at the moment is our sustainable garden, where students grow vegetables and fruit together, and you can actually harvest the fruit, and you could be part of gardening if you'd like to garden, which is one of the British cultural things. We like our gardens. We have great computer facilities. We have wonderful places where you can eat. This is our refectory where students go to have their meals. And we have sports facilities, a wonderful Olympic-sized swimming pool, and so on. So lots of different facilities. And we also have lots of support for students. So we have a multi-faith chaplaincy for people who might want to experience and think about the more spiritual aspects of life. We have excellent support for disabled students, and in fact, our international students consistently rate the support from our disability services very, very highly, more highly than most other universities in the country. So this is something we are very proud about, is the support that we provide to disabled students. We have an accommodation office who would help students to find places to live. We have language support centre. There are around 50 different languages spoken across campus, and you can learn those 50 languages if you want to, but also they're there to help students for whom English is not their first language, for example. And you can have additional tuition, you can have drop-in support, you can study another foreign language at the language support centre. So there's lots of wonderful help there. Careers advice, healthcare, all set up on campus for our students. We have an award-winning student union, which is actually run by our students, and they have over 350 clubs and societies that you might like to join. They have amazing club nights, dancing, they have bands that come to play, they have discotheque activities. I'm sure you know what I mean. I'm being really old now. They have sports clubs. I don't think there's a sport that we don't play at the University of Leeds, and if we don't play it, you can start your own society and start up that sport. We have a student newspaper, television, radio run by the students. You can do ballet and modern dance. You can do comedy clubs, choirs, drama. Maybe you'd like to go horse riding or learn to bake beautiful cakes, or maybe you want to watch films together. And I note that there's also a Taiwanese Society as well at the Union, which is run by our Taiwanese students. And this is an opportunity for Taiwanese students to come together, but also it's an opportunity. They welcome into the Taiwanese Society other students who are not from Taiwan to learn about Taiwanese culture, Taiwanese food, Taiwanese traditions. So again, that is something that you don't have to do. You wouldn't have to come and join the Taiwanese Society, but if you wanted to, that would be there for you as well. Okay, now I'm going to move now to show you very quickly some videos, two little videos, or I will do, should do if I can move on. Okay, these are two short videos that I'd like to finish with today, which have been made by some of our international students, and they will, I hope, give you an insight into what it's like to be an international student at the University of Leeds. Now, I would like to recommend that you put your sound up as far as possible whilst these play, because unfortunately, I think over the wires, over the internet, the sound is diminished. So do put your sound up a little as I now put on this video. And I hope this works okay. Here we go. Oh, no, wrong one. My apologies. Ah, why is this not working? Here we go. There we go. Sorry.
My name is Abir and I am from Jordan. I chose Leeds because I wanted to be able to mingle with locals and international students, but I also wanted to feel the culture and immerse myself in it. I like the fact that it's a youth environment in which everyone is young, there's a lot of fun going around, you never feel like an outsider, you fit in very easily and very fast. The university is very beautiful. I'd say one of the most beautiful campuses I've seen in the UK. There's a lot of things going on. The union has a lot of societies and the university is always alive, and there's a lot of areas in which students can sit and relax. The buildings are very fascinating because they're old, but from inside they're very modern. You have old faculties, libraries, even the gym, everything is in one place, making it easy for the student to feel the vibes of being a student with other people, and it's very close to the city center as well. If I had to summarize my year in Leeds, I would say the most educational, informative, fruitful year of my life.
Okay, that's one of our visiting students. Oops, sorry, I now want to move to the next slide. And I want to play you this. And I think you'll see why I have chosen this particular one, because this is a student from Taiwan.
大家好, I'm Minnie and I'm from Taiwan. One reason I chose Leeds was for the city itself, and when I first arrived it felt a little bit like a mini London. It's not too big or too small, so it helps me balance my academics and student life very easily. I'm a major foodie, so I try all different kinds of food. There's always different activities I can explore, so when I first came I went to escape rooms, there's golf, bowling, rock climbing. Having different people helps me experience university life in completely different perspectives. I preferred Leeds because it was so close to the city, but it doesn't lose that university vibe. Leeds has a good culture between like a historical environment and also a modern society. Everyone that comes to university, they all have this fear that you might not fit in, it might not go as you plan, but I think as long as you realize that everyone's actually feeling the same way that you are and you're not alone in this, talking to people, having that access to support from university and friends and family does help you overcome that fear. It's both overwhelming, it's going to be scary, but it is something that's also going to be probably the best time of your life.
Okay, so I hope that those videos played at least so that you could hear them and they weren't too slow. So I'm going to actually stop my presentation now and return so that I can see you all. And then if you have any questions, I would love to know what you would like to ask me about studying at Leeds.
Yeah, is there any questions who want to ask questions, or maybe professors, because we have some professors from our Department of Sociology or Social Work, including Professor Zhang or Professor Chen, also our director, Professor Ku. And so if any of you have questions, please just speak up.
Please do. I hope that, I know we started a little late, so I hope it's all right to overrun. I'm happy to do so. So let's continue if that's okay with you all. Wonderful.
Can I have a very quick question?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's Andy Koo here. I'm currently the director of international cooperation. Sorry, because of the delay, I didn't have time to actually introduce myself properly. You remind me of my wonderful time when I was studying in the UK, and I met my wife.
Where were you?
I think
were you?
We're in Cambridge.
Oh,
so it's
beautiful city.
Travel around southern England. So so I like Yorkshire tea, Yorkshire pudding, everything in England, probably. Yeah. So my question is, because I didn't actually have chance to visit Leeds personally. Yes. So what would you say is the most differences like studying Leeds other than studying other parts of the UK? What would be your
Okay. So obviously there are different types of university. I imagine this is the same in Taiwan as well. But we have some universities that are research intensive and some that are less research intensive. So the first thing to note is that, like the University of Cambridge, the University of Leeds is a research intensive university. So that means that if you came to study at the University of Leeds, you are being taught by people who are also very busy undertaking cutting edge research in their fields of interest and expertise. So some other universities that you could study at, they do good research, but they emphasize more heavily on teaching, and we balance the two. So you are learning in Leeds from people who are actually doing the research that you are learning about. So that's the first thing to note. The other thing is that we are a metropolitan university. So that means that we are based in the centre of a big city. So Cambridge is a little bit different because Cambridge is a city, but Cambridge has a much more rural history, actually. So although it is a city, it is based on a different kind of industrial heritage and history. So we are a big industrial revolution age city, and we have a different feel to the city and the environment. It's got a lot of big businesses, banks, and so on. Slightly different from Cambridge, which is a very old world. And really, the university is, if you like, one of the main industries of Cambridge, right? Yeah. Whereas we are a city that actually has 3 universities based in the city. We're about 10 minutes walk from the city centre. So geographically, we are a very urban kind of campus. But there is another difference in that in other urban sort of big city type universities, you could be travelling between areas of the campus. It wouldn't necessarily feel that you were in a campus environment. Whereas Leeds, we're unusual because we're in the middle of a city, but we're also a campus. So you actually can stay on the campus all day if you wish. You don't have to be out in the city, though you can be. It has a feeling of a large village where if I'm leaving my office to go to get my lunch, I walk across campus, I might bump into several people that I know, see some of my students and have a chat. So I'm in the middle of a city, but I'm also in a little community in the university. The other things about Leeds is that we are in the north of England. So we are in an area of the UK that is not London-centric. So we are part of a vibrant northern powerhouse, as it's called, of industry and development, that you will learn that the whole of the UK is not London. So although there is a perception that London is Britain, in actual fact, there are other areas that are also very vibrant and exciting places to be. So I hope that gives you some flavour of what it would be like to be in the north.
Well, thank you. Excellent. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I see some questions because we have some questions. Some students, they leave questions on our online survey, and I just want to name a few. So I think some of the students, they are, actually I have 2 questions. So the first one is that some students, they want to know, like if they travel abroad and study maybe in UK or at the University of Leeds, and how does the university respond to the COVID or current crisis in order to protect both students and faculties? And the second question is, like, some students are interested in knowing more about how it feels like regarding the like maybe living expense or tuition or maybe potential scholarship, and if they want to become a competitive students when they graduate from the University of Leeds. What do you have any suggestion regarding how they become a good student, like after they graduate from the school?
Wow, okay, that's 2 great questions. I'm going to deal with the COVID question first. I mean, to everybody, I hope and pray that this is a period of all of our lives that will end before too long, and that if you did come to study in the UK or at Leeds, that things would be a lot better by the time you came. However, I think you know, and I would like to be honest, that the UK is not in the same situation as Taiwan at the moment, and we do still have quite a lot of COVID cases. We are now, as a country, almost entirely vaccinated, which is bringing some control over COVID in this country. And people who are catching a variant of COVID called the Delta variant that you may have heard about, which the vaccines don't entirely work against. Nevertheless, we're finding that people don't become as poorly. So the vaccine is actually meaning that people have a sort of like having a bad cold. Do you have the expression cold? Like just not being very well, but they're not dying and they're not going into hospital. So things are gradually coming under control here. Okay. At the university, we at the moment, but this will change as the year goes through, we hope. At the moment, how we're teaching is that we are not doing big lecture theatres type of teaching, all right? So we're not bringing 200 or 300 students together in a room. Where we need to give a lecture like that to a lot of people, we are asking people to remain on their laptops and we give them the lecture in that way, all right? But when it comes to small classes, because we don't just teach in big lecture theatres, we also have what's called seminars. I imagine you call them something similar, yeah? Classes, where there might be 10, 15, maximum 20 people in a room. And we're trying to reduce those numbers down to manage. And then we have, everybody's in a large enough room so that people can social distance. And it sounds a bit silly, but every desk has got stickers. One person will sit here, one person will sit there. So we're doing distancing, which is a bit strange, but it's still nice to see each other. We're wearing our masks, okay? You don't have to wear a mask if you have a medical exemption. For example, if you're breathing, if you have reduced lung capacity, then you would not be forced to wear a mask. But everybody else is expected to wear a mask. And I do my teaching in a mask with a clear panel for lip readers. So we wear our masks. We have sanitizer pumps everywhere across campus. One-way systems that people are supposed to use, outside activities. But the reality is that, you know, once people are outside within the community, what you will notice is a lot of people, about 50% wear their masks all the time, 50% don't. Most people wear them when they go indoors, but the university is expecting people to wear masks inside. So that's how we are managing it safely. And we also have testing on site, and we ask everybody to do 2 lateral flow tests every week at least, staff and students. And if you test positive, we ask you to remain off campus, and students are supported if they are unwell. So I think we're doing all that we can in this situation. And indeed are still many international students are still coming. It doesn't seem to be putting them off coming. So now the second question, can you remind me of the second question, which is, how will it improve your CVs or your employability? Yes?
Yep.
Well, I talked about a lot of the fun things like clubs and societies and things that you can do. But of course, the main thing you can do is study and take classes that will enhance your knowledge, your understanding, your research skills. Every one of our modules, our individual learning units or courses, I'm not sure what you would call them, have a set of learning objectives that are not just to learn about photosynthesis in biology or alienation in sociology or whatever it might be. Those are important learning things, but we also have transferable skills or study skills that are built into all of our programs so that people learn to be able to research for evidence and justify the arguments that they make, to carefully weigh 2 different perspectives and to think which one is the most convincing. They have research skills which are very useful to employers. You know, how do we know what is happening in the world? How do we actually provide objective and clear analysis of a given situation? How do we think about solutions to problems in the world, and how do we test those solutions effectively? How do we evaluate whether the new design of a assistive technology or a new service or a new is actually working? What works for whom in what context and how? Students will learn to write in and to enhance their abilities to communicate in the written word, but also through presentations. So all of these transferable skills you can take into employment. But if you're doing co-curricular activities, whether you're in the drama society or whether you're in choirs or whether you're working for Amnesty International around social justice issues and human rights, these are opportunities for you to build your CV and also to show that you can organise events or occasions, that you can show initiative, that you can be an independent critical thinker. Okay, so there are lots of ways that you can build your CV. But beyond that, we have public lectures where you can expand your knowledge beyond what you're actually doing in your classes, where eminent scholars from around the world come to talk about the research that they're doing. Or you could, the library runs amazing how to structure an essay, how to use search engines effectively for bibliography so that you can really show that you've researched a topic. The Careers Centre has sessions on how to do well in an interview for a job, how to build your CV and write your CV. There's a lot of additional things. Maybe you'd like to learn to speak French. You can go to the language school and learn another language, which is always good for building your CV. So we have these opportunities, and what you need to do is talk to your personal tutor, and every student has an academic that they can come to talk to one-to-one and say, okay, this is what I want to achieve in my future. This is what I want to do in my career, or to help the world, or perhaps even bring the two together. And then we can sort of look for the opportunities on campus that will help you to tailor your experiences to your own personal aspirations. Okay? I hope that's...
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for giving us that many tips for students and even for myself. So thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Well, I hope that we're going to build a collaboration and a friendship between our schools and universities. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? We must work on that.
Yeah, definitely.
I wondered whether, are many of the students here interested in social science? Would anybody like me to say a little about opportunities to study at master's level in the social sciences at all? Or
yeah, I think we have around 3 to 5 students who are in social science. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously, I mean, it would be great to know what the other subject areas are that students are interested in. If they want to just put into the chat, I'm happy to talk about as many of them as I can. In my school, we actually run a series of master's programs, and I'm now going to read them out so I don't forget any of them. Okay. So we have an MSc, which is a type of master's course in social inequalities and social science. And this trains people to undertake applied research with civil society organizations, so not the government, but organizations like big charities and other kinds of social enterprises who may be wanting to address the various inequalities. And I'm afraid it's a very sad thing that one thing you would note if you came to the UK is that we are a society that is immensely wealthy, but we do have poverty as well in the UK. And this is something which is a shame, I think, to us as a society. In fact, in Leeds, our very own city, we have a higher than average rate of childhood poverty amongst children. And this is something that we at the university are working very hard with the Leeds City Council, that's the government who runs our local region, to try to address. So we are a country of inequality, I'm afraid. And that is something that has ever been so in the United Kingdom. But over the last 10, 20 years has actually got worse rather than better. So as a sociologist and someone who works also in social policy, that's something that worries me. And you can come and learn how we undertake that kind of research. You would actually get to do a project where you worked with an organisation outside Leeds, so that you would have the opportunity of, again, building your career expectations and aspirations in that respect. You could also do Masters in Gender Studies, in Social and Political Thought, in Society, Culture and Media, in Social and Public Policy, in Disability Studies, Rights and Inclusion. That's the one I teach. Okay, so that's the best one. I'm being naughty. They're all really good, but that's a really good one. And then we have the Masters in Social Research. And the Masters in Social Research is a training in how we undertake social science research, all the methodologies, quantitative statistical analysis, qualitative analysis, evaluative methodologies, the full how we imagine a research project, how we design how we're going to conduct research. And within that, you can also take specialist courses in gender studies or social theory or disability studies. But that particular course has been designed to prepare people who might like to go on to do a PhD or a doctoral project. So it's actually what we think as the preparation to go on to become a professional researcher. And you might become a researcher for a government or for a big corporation or a charity, for example, or you might want to become an academic. And if you wanted to become an academic, then I would think that doing the Masters in Social Research and blending that with some courses in gender or disability studies or whatever it might be would be a really good training opportunity as well. So that's just within my school. But in my faculty, we have a School of Law, and they have lots of exciting master's programs in business law and in human rights law and so on. We have a School of Education that does a master's in deaf studies and in other kinds of areas of education. We have a Department of Politics and International Relations, where, unsurprisingly, you can do masters in politics and international relations. So that's just our faculty. But then there are 6 other faculties where you can study any number, a huge array of different subjects. So I hope that's an insight. Our specialism in my school, we have expertise in disability studies, which is about studying the way in which the societies around us are built and organised in ways that I'm afraid don't always include people who are different in some way in terms of their bodies or their minds. The world is organised, whether it's through the way that we build our buildings or the way that the attitudes that we hold about whether people would be good workers or whether they are likely to succeed in education. All of these things operate in ways that don't always include disabled people and allow them to participate in all aspects of life. So that's one of our areas of expertise, and this is an expertise that Professor Chang also has. So this is how I know Professor Chang. So in other words, I do research a lot like Professor Chang. Okay, so that's the best way to understand it, I think. And we also have gender studies expertise, so gender and sexualities, again looking at the inequalities and injustices that women and minority sexualities have in the UK and around the world. We have expertise in the study of racism, and we have expertise in the study of social theory. So I don't know whether we have any sociologists here who've ever read the work of Zygmunt Bauman, who is a very famous social theorist. But Professor Bauman, who is sadly deceased now, was our professor at Leeds for all his career, really, in the United Kingdom, and was our emeritus, so our retired professor until his death. So he was very much a part of our community, and we follow his tradition of critical thinking around society. There's a lovely quote from him which he gave to a newspaper journalist once, and they asked him, why do you continue to write when you're in your 80s? Because he was writing many books. And he said, are you asking me why do I write books? Why do I think? Well, he said the answer is because I believe that by writing, I expose that things could be different and things could be better. And in other words, that's the role of the social scientist, to look at the world, to understand it, to look round and through it, beyond, to imagine better futures for everybody. And we're very inspired by his legacy. So that's okay. What about, there's a question here about long-term care. Do you mean alumni relations? So this is for students who have studied with us and then they go back home. Is that what we mean by long-term care?
I think he meant by long-term care policy.
He means what? Sorry, Hanko?
Long-term care policy?
I don't know what long-term care policy is. Sorry, do you want to explain?
Care for the aged.
Oh, for the elderly. Right,
Yeah.
Sorry. My apologies. Yes. Aging societies. Yes, we do. We also have expertise around aging societies. Family Life Course and the Generations is one of our other centres based in the school. But also, even if you are not a sociologist or a social policy academic, we have people working in gerontology within our medical and healthcare departments. We have an amazing engineering school, mechanical engineering, that gets #1 in the country year on year on year on year. It's a wonderful, and they have an institute basically that does assistive technologies for both disabled people and older people, and robotics that are there to help people and imagine better futures. We have an Institute of Transport Studies that is thinking about how we can maintain people's mobility across the life course, and for disabled and elderly people as well. So they've been working on, these cars that drive themselves and all sorts of exciting things. So across campus, there's a lot of research being undertaken into healthy aging, whether that's psychological or physical health. But also within our department in social science, we also look at the relationships between the generations and how those can be supportive relations. So I hope that answers the question. I'm awfully sorry. I can't read the name of the person who asked that question. I need to learn how to read.
Heiqi.
Okay. Heiqi. Okay. Well, thank you. That's a great question. Wonderful.
Yeah, I think that we probably want to ask more questions, but I know that for both for you and maybe for us, you must have a very busy day because it may be getting close to the end of your academic semester, and maybe because it's very close to maybe to the holiday season. So
it's absolutely fine. Look, I'm happy to. I have cleared these 2 hours in my diary for you all. So I will stay for another 5 or 10 minutes if that's what people would wish. So if you have other questions, but I don't want you to feel that you need to stay. So if anybody needs to leave, I will not think it's rude. I will stay as long as you would like me to. Okay, right. So you decide, Dr. Ma, when you would like to draw this to a close.
Oh, I saw that there is another student who just raised his hand. Maybe. Would you like to ask questions to Professor Beckett?
May I ask a question?
Hello. Yes, please.
how can we participate to the Leeds University exchange student? Because I didn't see it in the application form this year.
Oh.
Okay, so you'd like to come as an exchange student to spend perhaps 12 months with us rather than to take would this be, so Dr. Ma, would you like to explain it? Would this be a 1 year added to an undergraduate degree? How would that work?
Yeah, I think that it will be based on the contract, but this is a great question. So thank you for the student. And because right now we are not under the contract, which we are working very hard in the future. So it can be either way, like based on the contract, it will be based on maybe students, if they want to go there for only 6 months or maybe 12 months. So I think that we can have at least 2 options, but we need maybe we'll invite Professor Zhang and also Professor Ku in the future to have a meeting with you and to deal with to think about any possibilities.
Absolutely, and I don't know at what point you are in your studies. I hope that we will be able to arrange something like this during the time when you are still studying and a student there in Taiwan, because we certainly do have exchange students. They normally come to us for 12 months, but I'm sure that we could contemplate a shorter visit. But yes, we do have reciprocal agreements with universities around the world. So that's the other thing, is that if you came to us, you would be studying also alongside people who are spending a year and visiting us from America or from South Africa or wherever it is, or Italy. So we have a lot of exchange students as well as people taking masters with us or undergraduate studies with us. Yes, we'll get that sorted out.
Okay, thank you.
And Professor Zhang has a question or maybe comment.
Just a quick question. Like UK works for quarter system, so Taiwan works for semester system. So it seems like these have 3 quarters instead of 2 semesters. So can you explain a little bit about how that works? And also, I would need to know a little bit more about the MA programs. Normally, the UK takes 1 year to get master thesis done. So most people take 1 year to finish their degree, or it depends. Yeah.
Okay, good questions. Okay, so the last one is about master's student. Master's programs in the UK tend to be 1 year. Okay, sometimes they're 2. So we're about to launch a new master's, a digital master's, which would be in disability studies, rights and inclusion. And that one is unusual because that will be 2 years. So it's not exactly part-time, but it goes at a slightly reduced pace, okay, to give people additional time for learning and thinking. It's mostly online, so students would study wherever they are and join us internationally, but we also will run summer schools. Now, those would only be a week, so it would be a visit to the United Kingdom rather than coming to spend any time in the United Kingdom. So that's a different kind of way. If people don't want to actually, travel for a long period, they could come twice for short visits. So but most master's programs in the UK are 1 year in the country, in the United Kingdom, and they start in September, so in the British autumn or fall, and they run through until the following September. And we have 2 semesters, okay? So it's a bit confusing, Heng Hao, because we look like we have 3 terms and 2 semesters. It is very confusing. Basically, the first semester of teaching begins in September and runs until January, okay? And then the second semester begins, depending on the year and the diaries, the end of January or very early February and finishes May or June. Okay, so again, it depends sometimes the week it falls, all right? We don't have classes, we don't teach during the summer period, which is July, August, and the start of September. But during that period, students are mostly working on their independent research projects, because one of the things about a master's in the UK is that as well as going to lectures and classes and doing your reading and your debates and your discussions, where yes, you are allowed and encouraged to disagree with your professors if you can make a good argument. I don't need you to agree with me. I need you to justify the argument that you are making to me. Of course, if you want to agree with me, you can also agree with me, that's fine. But I also want you to know why you do, okay? So why is it that you are convinced by the argument that I make or Professor Chang makes or whoever makes? What is it about our research that is particularly persuasive, right? And we would encourage you to think critically and look at our methodologies and the theories that we use for our analysis and to understand what has informed and influenced our thinking. So in addition to all of that, we support you through one-to-one supervision with an academic member of staff to design a project that you want to do yourself, a research project. You would come up with the topic. We would help you to refine the research questions that you wanted to answer. And you would then go out and do the research, do the analysis, write it up, work through the ethical dilemmas and the ethical approvals process. So it's in the end, you produce a very professional piece of research. And that you would undertake throughout the year, but especially during those summer months, which is June through to September, and you submit it in September. And during that time, July, you would be able to talk to and have additional meetings with your personal supervisor. August is usually a period where you're expected to work independently, though if there are any difficulties, there are people available to speak to. And then in September, you submit your project. So I hope that explains the rhythm of the year. So the first 2 semesters before the summer are where you do your taught classes, and then the summer is also where you're busy with your project.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying this.
No problem.
And also, like, just one other things, because our coordinator Melody remind us to take group photos, even though we cannot meet each other physically. So if you don't mind, and may I ask all participants in our faculties and maybe students as well, if you don't mind.
Oh, I want to see this. I don't want to ever make students force them to put their videos on, but I tell you, the joy it gives me as an educator, I'm sure you know this feeling, to actually see some faces, because so often I'm teaching to a void, a vacuum. It's like talking into space. So great, it's lovely to see you. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay.
So any
欢迎
more?
同学打开镜头一起拍照哦。
Any more faces?
Any more faces?
Hello, hello, hello. Oh, there they are. Great to meet you. Great to see you.
Great to see you too.
And I should just complete today by saying that if anybody would like to email me and ask me any questions after this meeting, you are most welcome to do that. So I presume that Dr. Ma, Melody, you'd be willing to share my contact information with people? Oh, actually, I can pop it into the, if I'm organised, I can put it into the chat.
So do we already have pictures, maybe?
Have we taken photos? Yes?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, it's been wonderful to be here. Are we drawing to a close now?
Oh yeah, maybe yeah. Thank you so much, because now we learn that University of Leeds is really a very vibrant place, and thank you so much for this very impressive talk. I think that everybody feel impressed, and we will enjoy your talk. So, and also I would like to thank you for all the our faculties and students to participate in this event. So maybe for each of us, we give another big applause to our big thanks to our Professor Beckett, and thank you for your time. Like you spent more than 1 hour and a half for us. So thank you so much.
It's my absolute pleasure. So do come to the UK. It's wonderful. Don't be worried. It is safe as long as you're sensible yourselves about where you go and wear your masks. But also do come to Leeds, because Leeds is the best place to come to. I may be a bit biased.
Yeah.
Okay. Take care, everybody. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a wonderful
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Hang Hao, I'll be in touch soon. Dr. Ma as well. Thanks, Melody, very much. Bye-bye now.